Whenever you evaluating a property, whether it's a flip, whether it's cash flow property, always start with the exterior repairs first, okay? And the reason is because it's just human nature. When you get inside, you're gonna be drawn into aesthetically what needs to happen inside the property. And so you're gonna end up missing, you're gonna forget about the stuff that had to happen outside, right? Then you submit your numbers and all of a sudden you're like, man, I had 20 grand in repairs outside. I would look at the concrete work, right? That's a big one that's typically missed. Like this driveway, something gotta happen here, right? So you would account for that. You would account for all of this ivy, although sometimes it can look pretty and stoic on the property, all that gotta come down. All that gotta come down. That ivy, you see how it started to grow up in your gutters, it'll start to separate your gutters from the fascia, and that's a whole nother problem. Now you got water intrusion going into the property. So you wanna account for getting all that stuff taken down, right? So you see like the brick over here is cracked up. So you would take account for that. It don't look like it's anything compromised with the foundation. That'd be more on the porch level, but that's still something that would need to be tuck pointed or addressed or fixed. And I know this, but that's not, the brick is adjacent to limestone, and you know how you can go in and put mortar over brick and kind of rebond it. You can't do that necessarily to limestone. So, you know, just nuance like that. I could geek out on this stuff. Y'all don't need to know all that, but that's something that would need to be addressed.
Have you ever pulled out of a deal after you've made an offer and then you had a private inspection done?
Oh yeah, plenty of them. Yeah, plenty of them. But that's why we write all our contracts with 7 to 10 day inspection periods, because that's your time to bring your item back to the store and get your money back. Yeah, that's the way we do it. That's why we do it the way we do it. But that's also why we able to be much more aggressive. Like, how is it that I'm 800 miles away in Florida beating people out of opportunities up here? It's because they got to take the time to come do all this stuff that I'm teaching y'all today that I don't. I just pull up my spreadsheet, boom, 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 in 3 minutes, I make my offer. Okay, but I want y'all to also understand, because when you see it in practical terms, it's gonna make it that much more clear when you at home doing it online. Okay.
But you still give yourself a leeway, like you said, in case you have to pull out or whatever. So you are quick to make the offer, get the offer accepted, but then once you have the different inspections and stuff done, you've left yourself enough of a window where if you need to.
100%, 100%. Because as long as you pull out within that 7 to 10 day period, you get your earnest money deposit back. Okay. So you don't lose any money in the situation. Okay. There are times where that may happen and you figure out through the process you don't want to flip it anymore, but it could turn into a good wholesale opportunity. In that case, you just got to make the determination, am I okay with my $1,000 deposit going what's called hard at that point? Which means that you stand a risk of losing it if you don't wholesale it within the time frame of the contract. And so, you know, that's just a call you got to make at that point in time. Like if I could risk this 1,000, if I believe I could go and make 15,000, to me that risk reward makes sense. But if I'm gonna risk this 1,000 and I think I go wholesale it to make 3 grand, I probably ain't gonna take that risk. I'm just gonna get my 1,000 back, put it in my pocket, move on to the next property. But there's literally some projects where you may get into it and you like, I don't want to necessarily do this project no more, but I know somebody that probably would, especially if it was a cash buyer versus somebody using financing. And you like, man, I could go make a quick 10, 15 grand. Like, let me go do that real quick. Okay.
So you have to make that assessment within that first 7 to 10 days.
You will have to make, well, if you want to get your money back, yes. But if you go beyond that 10 days, like sometimes I literally didn't figure that out until after the 10 days was over for whatever reason or another. And I was like, yeah, this one worth fighting for. So I just stay in, because your contract said I'm gonna close in 30 days. It's just that your due diligence period ends in 7 to 10 days, right? So you just moved outside of that threshold, but you still got 30 days to try to sell it. So if you wholesaled it within 30 days and somebody bought it, you still made good on your contract even though you weren't the buyer. So the idea is to get you guys in every time you touch a deal, you can figure out how to make money on it, even if it's not your initial exit strategy that you were shooting for. Does that make sense? Okay. So you would you would make a note of, again, all the exterior repairs first. And then like the rehab cost analyzer, it got plug and play numbers already in there. Okay. I don't know. Oh, it's a fence up, so we should be all right. Another key piece. It is? Okay, well, we're gonna leave him over there, but these windows, right? Especially in urban areas, you're gonna wanna have glass block windows for security as well as for good ventilation for the basement, cross ventilation. Okay, so that's something else that you would account for, like putting in glass block windows all the way around. Then you also look at your windows and see what type of shape they in, right? Count how many broken windows that you got, that type of thing. So because we already give y'all the math on what things cost and all the rest of it, you just taking an inventory of what need to happen. Listen, I hope you guys are enjoying this video. I just want to tell you really briefly, if you are an aspiring investor or you are an active investor and you want to scale your business through remote investing, you have to go get a copy of my ebook, The Top 5 Things That You Need to Know About Investing in Real Estate Remotely. There's no fluff. It is practical application on how you can go out and build a solid remote investing business with all the fundamentals that you need. There's the link in the description below. Go out, get you a copy of that book, and also make a comment. Let me know how it's helped you, all right? Now back to the video, y'all. I got this rule is always trust the comps. So you'll start to pull up, other properties that's been rented in the area and just look at the comparables to see what type of shape those properties were in when they were marketed and for what dollar amount. And if you want to garner that same price point, then you need to do that as a standard or above that if you wanted to add some nuance yourself. The thing that we have to be careful of is we don't want to over improve a property in a particular area because you won't get that money back out in value.
Okay.
Right. And so that's one of the biggest challenges I think many people have. Keith was actually talking about this, not to pick on him, but he was saying in one of his properties, he went very taste specific off of what he would want in the property. And that ruins a lot of investors. So you do have to kind of take your preference out and just trust whatever the marketplace is saying that you should do and do that.
And that's even like when you sell your house. I mean, you take all your personal stuff out of the house so that when people are looking at the house, they can see themselves in there.
For sure.
And if you have like this purple wall, you don't have a purple wall because everybody might not like it. So I guess it's
bingo. It is. It is the same thing. Yeah. And here's the beautiful part. Like, depending on what your budget is, will give you creative opportunities. So like if you're able to pull in everything and still be like $3,000 left in your budget, and then you just were really attached to a specific fan or light fixture or whatever, then that leave you some room to add those additional things in. But it's just about reverse engineering like the numbers to make sure that it's functions over finishes. So you got to first make sure all the functionality is good in the property, and then start to look at what type of additional finishes can you integrate once you got all the other pieces checked off. Okay. That makes sense?
Yeah, I just got to
that's y'all should write that down. It's function over finishes. Y'all should make a note of that. Always remember it's function over finishes. If it was a flip, you would take that wall out to open it up because that's what sells in today's market is an open floor plan, right? And so that's what I mean by trusting the comps, but then looking at functionality over finishes. So before I were to say, I'm gonna put quartz countertop in here, the function suggests that I need to take this wall out. So I'm gonna look at what's the cost of taking this wall out, rerouting electrical and heat vents before I go put and upgrade this countertop. Maybe that countertop need to stay level 1 granite while I make the functionality of this space better. So that's what I mean by functionality over finishes. You always wanna make sure that the layout and the environment, because those are things that a homeowner, they ain't gonna change that. They knock out a wall. You know what I'm saying? They like, those supposed to be up, not out. So anything that's gonna be challenging for them, you wanna fix those problems before you ever flip a house.
But you would only do that if you were flipping.
100%. I wouldn't do that for a rental. Yeah. Yeah. So what y'all come up with so far?
Jeez. Number value or what needs to be fixed? Or what we will do?
Yeah, well, have y'all started putting together numbers? No?
Just assessing
Okay.
all the
E,
windows.
what you been over here doing?
Man, I've been looking at it. I'm comparing it to the thing I got going on right now.
Okay.
I'm thinking this at least gonna be 80. Now we gotta look at the plumbing and electrical. The electrical look old, so that's gonna be something else. Then it looked like this ceiling downstairs in the bathroom about to fall in, so we gotta see what that's looking like. But I'm thinking at least 80. So,
I wasn't that high, but I was with both bathrooms being totally gutted and redone. That way you could fix the leak that's traveling down into the kitchen. But I didn't get up to 80. I was like around 60. We got 13 windows on the main floor, 8 windows up here. The doors are pretty much, is it just for, on the main floor, the doors are still there so they can be salvaged. They're in the closets or wherever. Up here you would probably have to do a total overhaul on the doors. That's just what I have so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say about the same, maybe 85. You know, I
Okay.
think you can keep the floors. Some of the windows can be salvaged as well. Looks like they're pretty functional. You know, what he said about the closet doors as well. I think you can, refurbish those, get them up to snuff.
That's good. Twan?
I don't know, because I had this.
just get me out of this
Yeah, I was thinking about as though I would be living here. So my price was higher because I'm like, oh, all of this got to go. But that's not the case. So
For sure.
I have to get in a different mindset.
Does your price point from a flip perspective or from a whole perspective when you're giving your?
Flip.
So see, everyone had different numbers for flip. That would explain the difference in the numbers. What was your perspective?
Was your perspective for holding or
mine was for holding,
Oh.
but I'm thinking like, so what I got under contract, we ain't even got walls on a lot of the spots. So, and we got to redo all the floors. So, I mean, we can salvage a little bit, and I'm at 100,000. So I'm like, bro.
And that was on the bargain at 100.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, because initially he was like 150, and I was like, like, no way. So dude, I got another cat out there, and he was like 90, but then we had to add some more doors and stuff in there, so now we had 100, and I'm like, this don't look, this look the same, really. So. Yeah, I'm gonna stay at 80.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You're not
So
gonna look downstairs yet, though, right?
We did.
So you looked at the basement, you haven't looked at the backyard.
So one of the things that when we talk about functionality over finishes is the roof, the HVAC, the electrical, and the windows, right? So the first 4 main arteries of every property you got to look at: the roof, the HVAC, the electrical, and the windows, because those are your biggest expenses. If you miss one of those, you quickly then got in trouble inside of your property.
Yeah, I ain't even see no HVAC.
Now, I'm gonna give y'all a hack for when you evaluating deals online. Sometimes you can't see pictures of the basement, but if you see heat registers, that's indicative of the fact that it's more than likely a furnace forced air system in the basement. If you see the stand-up radiators, that's indicative of the fact that it's a boiler system in the property, right? And so all that simply means is, depending on what your appetite is, if you see heat registers and there's a boiler, you probably want to plan in your rehab to take that out and convert it all to forced air.
Why?
Did you ask why? Oh, well, because I thought I heard it, but I was like, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe we got a visitor in here or something. I'm like, dog, finally they came out the closet. You're like, why? You know what I'm saying? I like the boiler in here, you know.
I remember your story about a busing, so I was like,
Yeah. yeah, but predominantly because a boiler system is radiant heat, and so it's combustible water, right? And so water leaks, and it seemed like every time we keep a boiler system, when we go to list a property for sale, one of those caps on the radiator or something blow, spray water all over the place. So I really had just got I was just outdone with it. I'm like, I'm just taking boilers out of every deal that I do and just pay to convert into forced air. Now, you know, the boiler heat can be cheaper though from a energy efficiency perspective if it's set up the right way. But as far as maintenance and all the rest of it, forced air is just easier. It's easier on the consumer for sure.
Question, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
The style and the architecture.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a preference, but would you keep this, or would you get rid of this, just paint over it, or would just...
So if I was if this was a rental property, I would keep it and paint over it. Okay. If it was a rental property, I'd keep it and paint over it. If I was flipping this house, I'd probably tear all of this out and go back with regular drywall and make it all smooth, depending on the neighborhood. But before I made any decision, I would look at the comps. Like, always trust the comps. You may see comps that kept this and they did a two-tone paint job on it, like a dark gray with light gray accents. So then why would you spend all that money to tear it out, demo it? Because this all plaster. This gonna cost to come out, you know what I'm saying? So, and then to go back with all those sheets of drywall. So it's really just about trusting the comps to make sure that you being as cost effective as possible. Yes, Candace?
What's the difference between plaster and drywall?
Plaster is, the easiest way to explain it is plaster is heavy and expensive, and drywall is thin and cheap. That's the easiest way of explaining it. And drywall is pre-made, plaster isn't. The plaster got to be mixed together, and then it's got to be applied in a certain type of way as well. So a lot of the time within this plaster is like metal lats that the plaster attaches to keep form. So it's just a much more expensive process. But back in the day, they didn't have drywall, so these 1920 properties all got plaster in them.
Do you have a plaster guy?
Oh, we got a plaster guy. Matter of fact, it's one in the group. Damon, one of the apprentices, Damon, that's all he do is plaster. Like for a trade, that's what he do. He's second or third generation plaster guy. Yeah, so first thing we need to do, because we missed that step, is to go back in the basement and look at the mechanical situation, figure out, do we got the updated electrical as you talked about? What's our plumbing situation? Is it a hot water tank down there? Look in the ceiling and figure out, is it galvanized pipe? Is it PEX already ran? That just means like the style of piping will let you know how current it is and if you need to address it. Okay? Twana look mortified. She going first. Come on, you going first. There she go. She done made it. Come on, Twana. So you can see these connections right here. That's galvanized piping. It look like metal or iron. You know what I'm saying? So it's dated. You will want to reconnect with either copper or PEX. PEX, you know what I'm saying, is what you really want to use. Like over here, this will be PEX piping. It's undersized. It should be much bigger than that. It should be at least like a 1 inch coming off of here, but that's a different kind. But this is essentially what you would want to convert everything that's galvanized to it. It's going to be much cheaper and much more effective. This was like some alarm system they had back in the day. You could tell looking at this furnace, right? I mean, you may or may not be able to use some of this. Yeah, so this is an older furnace. So you would put in a new furnace, but you may be able to use a lot of the existing trunk line and all the rest of it.
And the ducting should be something.
That's what I meant, the ducting and all that. Yeah. This got a updated service panel in it. Supposedly, right? Yeah, it's rough, but it's 100 amp service. Now in a duplex like this, you probably want to have 150 amps. So, like each breaker is representative of a certain amount of amperage for each one. So you would obviously want a licensed electrician to come over and look at that if the contractor didn't have one. But nowadays, even in single family homes, they're putting in 150 amp because people got so much stuff they want to plug in. So you want to have the additional amperage available even if you're not going to use it all. 100 amps used to be the standard, right? But I would say 150 minimum is the standard, especially in a multifamily. So we figured out we need a furnace, need to upgrade our service panel, but we don't have to rewire the whole house. Then you come through and you start looking like, okay, am I going to...
What about the hot water heater? So we weren't doing anything.
Hot water heater was good. Well, it was damaged. Did the piping. So yeah, just we would account for a hot water heater. Okay. Good observation. And then we would come in and just start looking at, okay, always just account to repaint the whole house. Take the square footage, 100 times $1.50 square foot, right? That's your cost for repainting the whole house. Then you start looking at the floors. Okay, am I gonna leave the hardwoods in? Am I gonna put carpet in, whatever? In most applications, you're gonna leave the hardwood in. In 70% of the marketplaces, you can get hardwood resanded and finished for $2.50 a square foot. So you take the square footage of the house and you take about 70% of the house for the hardwoods. Why do y'all think that is? That's right. You got bathrooms, kitchens. So you leave those as tile areas or whatever you're going to put in that place and then account for 70%. So let's say the square footage was 1,000. You take 70% of that, 700 square feet, and you multiply that by $2.50 and give you your hardwood cost. Make sense? Windows, right? Many of them, they already put the vinyl style windows in, so maybe you got a couple panes here or there. I'm gonna go with Keith's number. I trusted. He said 13 windows need to be replaced. So you got 13 windows times $300 roughly, right? That's your number. What is that? $3,900, something like that in windows. If you got a fireplace, you got to figure out: are you gonna leave it capped off? Are you gonna leave it or get it back functioning? In a rental property, you're gonna leave that fireplace capped off. Okay.
It's not a real fireplace.
So there you go.
So it's aesthetics.
So if so sometimes you'll come in these properties and this literally will be capped off. Okay. And so the chimney will still be running out, but it'll be capped off. If it's a rental property, just leave it capped off. If it's a flip, then you will want to reassess it because somebody would appreciate having an active fireplace in their property. Okay. Then you just want to start looking at the kitchen next, right? So if it's a flip, you're gonna want to make sure that you got recessed lights in the kitchen, as well as take the wall out to open it up. Being that this is a rental property, you know, you would want to obviously change out a center mount light. You wouldn't want that ugly light there, and you would just look at replacing all of this. What do you think, Etwana?
I would get rid of all of it.
Okay, good. So now this is the key though.
Question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
The ceiling.
Uh-huh.
Would you just if it's a rental,
Mm-hmm.
you would just repaint it, or would you smooth that?
I would smooth it out. Yeah. I could tell that's bothering you.
Mm-hmm.
We would smooth it out.
Okay.
Would you
Yeah.
smooth it out with, you would just throw a couple of dry walls up there?
So what you would do is it's a concept called pulling the ceilings, right? So what happens is they'll take like a compound and put it up there and then literally float it back and forth until it's a smooth transition. Okay. And then you would have to make the determination of, do you try to salvage some of these built-ins or not? My humble opinion, you just take all of them out. If it's a rental property, you're going to use a different style of countertop, right? So it'll be Formica instead of level 1 granite that you would use in the flip. So that's a cost saving. So if a kitchen were to cost you $8,500 to $10,000 on a flip, it's going to probably cost you closer to $6,500 on a rental property, particularly because the kitchen going to be smaller, one, and then secondly, because you're gonna use like you're not gonna get the same type of sink and an undermount sink for granite and all the rest of it. We're not getting that, right, Tawana? That's right. We're gonna get the Formica with the stainless steel joint, because you're not living here. That's right. That's right. Another major key that y'all want to look out for, okay, that a lot of investors miss is the trim. This trim has a huge impact on how the house finishes. So if you flipping a property, if let's just say that this was damaged, you want to go back with the tall baseboards, okay? Because they're more aesthetically pleasing. They give it more character. If it was big in there, you want to put big back. As y'all know, in newer homes, they put the 3-inch Pro Pack, like the little short trim everywhere.
In the custom house, they put the big.
That's right, Tawana. We talking about the flip houses that we're gonna be selling to people. Okay. So the trim is important. If it's missing in places, you want to put it back, okay? Because what it does when you paint, if your trim is good, even if the paint ain't perfect, which it never is, it's gonna make it look that much better.
So question,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you were talking about everything that you're gonna fix downstairs.
Mhm.
Would you do anything else down here, like that drop ceiling? Would you fix any of that?
In the basement? Nope. I tear out what needs to be torn out during demo, and the rest of it, if it makes just clean it up. Yeah.
So even when we run the numbers in a house like this, it's like you just said, the square footage.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to, you have upper and a lower.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is times 2.
The only thing that's times 2 is the kitchen and the bath. Paint is yes, the whole square footage of the whole place, and then multiply that by your paint number. So if it's 2,000 square feet, then $1.50 a square foot, it's gonna cost me $3,000 to paint the whole thing.
So you would paint everything the same?
100%. I just paint everything.
Okay.
And your paint probably gonna be a little bit cheaper in a rental property because you more than likely gonna use white in a rental. It's easier to touch up when things happen, when tenants do turnover, all the rest of it. You're not gonna paint it color specific to cut down on costs.
Just to be clear, is your 2,000, 1,000 down, 1,000 up?
Yeah, it's the whole dwelling. I'm looking at that from a whole dwelling perspective. The roof would be no different. So if the roof was, let's say we had to replace the roof would be 2,000 square feet divided by 100, multiplied by 2, multiplied by 250, which is 250 is the cost of a pack of shingles. But when I take the square footage and divide that and multiply it by 2, I'm taking account of both sides of the roof, and I'm taking it from square footage and turning it into squares because roofs are done in squares. Shingles are sold in squares. Y'all don't need to know all of that. Like, yeah. But I'm making the point of the dwelling itself is going to be looked at as the entire square footage, right? And then the only things that are doubles are double kitchens and double bathrooms. Everything else is everything else. You see what I'm saying? Unless you're putting in 2 furnaces, unless you're putting in 2 hot water tanks, right? Everything else I'm looking at, I'm just doing quick math, right? This is for y'all to be able to come in and literally come up with a number in 5 minutes. Listen, I hope you guys are enjoying the video. I'd just be remiss if I didn't let you know, yes, we do have another one of our 5-day challenges coming up, the iFlip Challenge, where I am teaching you how to go out and build a 6- and 7-figure business in 12 months using other people's money. If you are trying to go out and build a real estate business and achieve the time freedom and financial freedom that you've been seeking all your life, then click the link in the description, join the next challenge. I look forward to meeting you guys there. Now back to the video. So what we thinking, y'all?
Yeah, I'm thinking we might be closer to 50 on this thing.
60.
Where you at, Scott?
And
50, 60?
and 60 is,
my 60.
You staying with your 60?
60 is worst case.
What's your
You
number?
think worst case 60?
I've seen worse than this. You gotta think when you
This is
think
funny,
about
because
it,
I'm normally the
you
most bougie
purpose-
person in every room, so this is hilarious to me.
Like you purposely cut it in areas, right?
Yeah. Man, shoot. I need to go back through that duplex then, see what's 100 for.
You see what I'm saying, how impactful this is to be out here in the field and see it like in real time, because I'm sorry, Nene, go ahead. You said you were thinking about?
No, I also think about it from a market perspective too. Like if the cost of living is higher somewhere, you gotta account for that too. So I'm thinking about, I know what the cost of living is here. From that perspective, I can't go to California and see this same house and think I'm only gonna pay $60,000 to fix it up.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
So you gotta also think about it from that perspective too as well. And I know sometimes we get caught on we in these higher the cost of living markets, but when you come to a place like Detroit where the cost of living is cheaper, you're not gonna spend the same money. You're gonna spend less.
True.
So tell me this, when you and Dana did y'all first flip in North Carolina, how comparable was the rehab prices here versus there, based on cost of living?
We were in Salisbury, it was the same, right? So we were an hour out of Charlotte, so Salisbury felt more like a country aspect, right? But the closer you get to the city, it wouldn't have been the same.
Gotcha.
So it was pretty much close apple to apples.
Okay. And you use almost the same style of choice in material there that you would have here? Like the tile choices and stuff like that?
Yes and no. Because also you gotta look at your comps and what type of material they like out there versus what type of material they
Talk
might
that
like.
gangster talk then, Nene, okay.
Not necessarily. So it depends. But we went with the same, the white cabinets, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, we did a stainless steel appliances and stuff like that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when we get out of here, because Tawana about to have a nervous breakdown, and when we get out of here, I'm going to have Lania tell y'all about the challenges she went through with her contractor, her and her cousin Dana had out there, which was kind of crazy. But so, y'all want to know my number now? I'd say probably 65, 70. I'd say 65, 70. But that's it.
65, 70 include the roof, or does it not include the roof? Because if you include the roof, I would take it to 65, 70.
It does not include the roof, but it does include just having some variance in there. So I think you could get it done at 60. I would budget 65, 70. But I think you get this done with 60 grand for sure.
What'd you buy it at?
It depends on the comps. But, you know, assuming this would probably sell for $100,000 fixed up.
She said it's listed for 60.
What's the ARV over here?
120.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It can't be no more than about 100, 120. So let's use her number of 120. Then I would need to buy it for like 35 grand, 40 grand, put 60 into it, and still got some equity in it. But knowing that I could get $2 grand a month, you know, my debt service probably be $900 to $1,000 a month. So you can make some cash over here for sure. You said they listed it for 60?
Yeah.
And how much I say I want to buy it for?
35.
Oh yeah, I'll make that offer all day long. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
That's why I was when you said that. I'm like, she said 60.
yeah. Hey, but it ain't my job to give them what they want. It's my job to give them what's right.
You said 35.
For sure.
Thinking 40.
Yeah, we could start at 35 and end up at 40. I live with that.